Jitendra is the founder CEO of Citrus Pay. Citrus Pay is one of the largest fintech payment solution startups we have seen in India, with one of the most successful exits in the Indian startup ecosystem. And after that, he was heading PayU in India. So, welcome to AttainU, and thanks for taking out the time for this AMA session. We know you are a bit sick and down with flu.
Right.
So we are all excited,
Yeah,
super
I'm
excited to.
in really bad state. My nose is running. Yeah, so really bad state.
Thank you so much for still taking out the time to talk to us. So the generally we do want to keep these AMA sessions very informal, and we have curated a bunch of questions beforehand. So we'll try to weave in those along with taking questions from the students on the Zoom session live over here, right? So I
Sure.
think we can straight dive into it.
Sure, Devam.
Yeah. So the first question is around what would you suggest to a guy who has taken a year or 2 year break after graduation and now looking for a career in technology sector? So the context over here is that we have many students who, for one reason or the other, have had to take a break after graduation and are now looking to kind of jumpstart their career in the tech sector. So, do you have you seen such people in the industry? What would your advice be for a person in those shoes?
Sure. So, we have seen a lot of such cases actually, where we see that after graduation or post graduation, people take off for whatever reason. In fact, personally, I took off as well after I did my CA for 6 months. But but I think it doesn't matter in the job market that if you have taken off after graduation, as far as you're keeping up to date the relevant skills. So that is the most important thing. And I think while hiring, we have always paid attention to the passion level. Well, yes, the skill level plays role, but at the same time, the passion level plays a more important role, if you ask me. And especially I'm talking about the startups and all, if you're sort of intending to join that. I think in general, if you ask me, personally, I would advise for these guys to explore a small or a mid-sized startup rather than chasing, oh, I have to join Amazon or Google or Facebook, and that's the only ultimate success for them. I think, yeah, in my view, the learning curve is not that steep. If you join those big companies, yes, you get a very good salary, but the learning curve is steeper when you join a startup. But basically, it doesn't matter if you've taken a break.
Also makes sense, Jiten. So, guys on the call, feel free to, if you have any follow-up questions or any questions at any point, feel free to unmute your mic to ask those questions.
Hi, I am Anvesh. So I have a question, a follow-up question. So when you're saying passion levels, like how do you gauge that?
I think it's very evident, frankly. So when you talk, so like, at least personally, when I talk in the interview, I think the way candidate sort of talks about his ambitions, he talks about why he's exploring certain things, how he thinks about life, how he intends to learn, how he wants to sort of contribute. I think it becomes very evident. So I think it's a very, very subjective, if you ask me. But at the same time, it is like very, very evident with your body language, with the way you communicate, the way you sort of answer questions in terms of your ambitions, what do you want to do, how you want to operate. So I tell you a simple example. So, so people, whenever I take interview, people always say, "Oh, I want to join startup," and startup is what I have been born to work in. And then the next minute you ask them question, oh, maybe what happens if you don't get salary for 2 months? And you can see the reaction, and it's sort of so bizarre that they they are like, no, how can that be? And I'm not sure. So what I'm saying is, these are trick questions. So and you're sort of able to realize it, how candidate reacts in particular situation.
Thank you.
Makes sense, Jitin. Thanks. So let me go to the next question from the list, unless until anyone has any live question coming in. So another question is around what challenges did you face while founding a startup like Citrus Pay, and how did you overcome those challenges? And another related question later on is key, especially coming from a non-tech background, how hard or easy was it to get a tech team together to do a tech first startup?
So frankly, it was hell difficult to establish a tech company. And Citrus, if you sort of know the history, we were considered one of the pioneers in bringing all the innovations in the market, and especially like the card safe feature, which you see today as a hygiene. We introduced that first to the market. It was not existing. Then similarly, from the merchant side, to bring in more reliability on the uptime and all of that. How do you handle the uptime of the payment gateways? We brought in various logics around that. Again, those things didn't exist at that time. So I think how I have thought about the company is that you sort of look at what do you want to deliver, define the problem statement, and then throw it at the tech guy, saying that this is the problem statement we have to solve. Frankly, I'm not the coder who can sort of say that, oh, code this line this way, or design the architecture this way. But I think as far as you have a good hang on the market and good hang on the customer requirement, and if you're able to define the problem statement well, generally the tech guys are smart enough to deliver the solution. But I think the understanding and read of the market and defining the problem statement is the key, and which is where I would say that we were able to, personally, I was able to do that from a non-tech background. That being said, I've gone through my own share of challenges. So we started in Mumbai, and Mumbai, the building a tech team is like very very difficult actually. So we had to sort of set up a tech team in Pune, and the still I don't think the experience was best in class. And then we sort of ultimately moved to Bangalore. So we have gone through our own issues and failures in what we intended to do. So so yes, from a tech background, yes, it is easy to hire people, it is easy to get people on board and all. But that being said, I think you need to have the business understanding as well. So just by remain be with the tech background doesn't solve your all your problems. So so like our sales function was, I would say, performing very well ahead of time. Now, I'm not saying if you're from a tech background you can't do sales, but that being said, I mean, coming from tech background doesn't help you in sales. I mean, it's not like that helps you in sales. So I think tech background, yes, is important. But that being said, you can always have people who sort of come shoulder with you, and if you hire the right guys on that. And again, we made our own share of mistake in hiring initial set of guys. And again, the thing which I talked about, the passion level, I think it was sort of very evident when you throw a problem statement. The guy is like, no, I'm not sure this is reasonable, this is practical. And and then there were a few other set of guys that are saying, oh, we'll solve it tomorrow, we'll show something to you, or day after tomorrow we'll show something to you. So there is a clear evident difference in terms of the people with, I would say, the less skill, more passion, vis-a-vis the more skill, zero passion. So I think in my view, if you working towards the particular mission, then basically you should be ready to do anything, think in any respect. I mean, you have to think sometimes unreal. That's how you build a differentiated company. If everything was working how it is supposed to work, then anyway so many startups would think that way. So so that's how we overcame challenges, but we churned teams quite a few times, to be frank, in terms of how fast they were delivering, or how eager they were to deliver and all of that. So, but yeah, initial 1.5 year were really tough.
Makes sense, Jiten. Thanks. Anyone has any follow-up question or on the same or a different topic? Then feel free to unmute and ask out.
Hello, it's Ashish here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Ashish.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, like in the initial days, so like, did you optimize more for the like product, like the UX, or like did you focus more on establishing the merchant relationships? Like in the beginning, it's like in Indian audience doesn't like really care about the product that much, but so how did you like optimize between the
Yeah,
two?
so I think initial days our focus was creating this one or two differentiation factor and go to the merchant, and it was a push product. So where we had to actually push to the merchant base and sell them what they needed and explain them that how we are different and all. So, but a lot of sales push was required. The product in India, as you rightly said, just based on US doesn't sell on its own. So yes, we focused more on push sales, while of course we had couple of differentiating factors. Sorry.
Makes sense, Jiten. And thanks again. Like we can see that you're unwell, and thanks for taking all the time again. So there's another question which we had, which many people have upvoted, which is around will you prefer, when it comes to hiring, or generally, will you prefer a fresher learning some new stuff after college instead of applying for a job in the early days after college? I think, and whoever wrote the question, correct me if I'm wrong. The question is, key after college, should a fresher go and first learn stuff to become job ready and then go and join a company, or should they directly go apply and then wherever they get, should they start working?
So, this is an interesting question you're asking. So, my personal experience with freshers have not been that great. And I'm just saying very, very openly and honestly because of two reasons. I think one, when they join the company, they're still in the college mode. So they sort of are casual, not very committed and serious. That's the generalized experience I had. That being said, the skill level also is a problem, right? So they are not job ready in my view. So I think so my preference would be that if they have learned the job ready skills, and then they join, because they think from a startup standpoint. A startup, if I'm a large startup like a Flipkart and all, then it's okay even if 10 guys are not productive. But if I am a mid-sized startup with 100 people or 50 people, five people not being productive from day one is a very, very problematic. So so I think our so stage of the company, we sort of see whether we can afford to hire fresher or not.
Makes sense.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, Shishant.
Sir, I have a question for him.
Yeah.
So, after starting the company, did he come across any such situation that I cannot do it? And how did he manage to overcome such situations?
So I think in the first 1 year you always have self doubt. Just ignore the background noise. So in the first 1 year you always have this doubt that whether you can make it or can't make it. So I think first 1 year is always very, very challenging. So yes, we had our own share of self doubts whether it's gonna work. Uh, but I think the only thing was that I'm gonna give it 2 years irrespective of the progress, and that sort of kept us going. And I think this is where it's up to you. Some people sort of give up in that time, and we sort of decided ki come what may, the 2 years we're not gonna compromise. We're gonna see how it shapes up and all. And I think I remember distinctly after 18 months or so, we started seeing some traction. And the first 18 months were like really tough. And if we were to decide every month based on the traction in first 18 months, I think I would have given up.
Actually, it is a follow-up question to the previous answer you gave about the skill gap for freshers. Um, so I'm not a fresher per se, but when it comes to technology and all, I am. I'm learning right now. So maybe I'm not that college mode kind of person, but yet I lack in the skills which is required right now. So are there any things around which what we call like uh, I would be accepted into the tech team and made sure that I contribute to the entire stack? Are there something on that lines? Or it's like you should be ready beforehand and should be productive from day zero?
I think the ideal is you should be productive from day zero. That's the ideal which every company expects you to do. That being said, everybody understands that even an experienced guy takes 1 month to 2 months to sort of start contributing, because every stack is different, architecture is different, how you have how in the past the code has been written maybe very unique to that company. So, I think generally people tend to give couple of months before they start evaluating you at a personal performance level.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else has any live question coming in?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Either fresher or experience. These days everything has become cheaper, right? Saving, storage area, processing. So will you consider coding standards also, like redundancy, all those? Because at present what we are learning is we are using methods, various methods. Whether it takes long code or short one, result is there, but coding standard, is that also important for a fresher or experienced?
When I said it initially you sort of tend to see how the person is ready to fit in the team, and as I said, every stack is different, every code architecture is different. So I think the more flexible you are to adjust to what a broader team is doing or ready to contribute as per the requirement of the broader team, I think it's okay. It doesn't matter what is the way you are what you learned so far. And I think as far as you're flexible in your thinking that okay, I'm ready to deliver as per the requirement of the team, is fine.
Anjali, does that answer your question?
It my question was actually so narrow. I got a broader answer to that.
Okay, so do you have a follow-up question? Is that good enough?
No, I got it.
Awesome, cool. Any other live questions, or should we continue with the curated list?
Hello,
Yeah.
sir. My question is that what is the better way to starting my career as a fresher, to join a startup or a developed company like big company like MNC, Amazon, Flipkart? In which company I learned more, much more?
Oh, I have a biasness, right? So my bias is towards startups. So I always my advice to people is join a startup in your early stage of career. Uh, I mean, if you're doing well and all of that, getting into big company, you can get it anytime. So that's not a problem if that is your aspiration. But from a learning curve perspective, I think if you join a startup, you have a better learning curve.
Awesome. Thanks, Jitin. So many people also have this question around how to approach investors. Is there any proper channel to go through?
I mean, it's an interesting question what you're asking, but actually nowadays what has started happening is just based on ideas. There is no more just funding happening. Frankly, you will be lucky if that happens. But because what's happening is there are so many choices available to investors now to put money. So so you need to show some POC, you need to show some initial traction, and then only the funding consideration happens. Because think from an investor standpoint, they receive thousands of proposals every month, and for them to bet on just an idea versus some POC and some initial traction, of course they would be biased towards the latter one. So I think it has become more and more objective nowadays.
Makes sense. Anyone has any follow-up or any other live question on a different topic, same topic? So I think one question which had like 34 upvotes, was around why is it that most of the startups, and you hinted at it a bit, why is it that most of the startups are based in Bangalore? Is there any uh, background environmental thing to it, or is it like it's easier to start a business in Bangalore? So many people had this particular question.
I think the two reasons basically the cost of living is low there as compared to Mumbai or any other city. So be it the rental cost or the whole office cost, so it's very low there. Second is the availability of the talent, because the cost of living is low, so the engineering talent is more there. So the availability of talent is easier in Bangalore vis-a-vis other cities.
Makes sense. So on a slightly different note, more related to maybe fintech, I'm not sure. But people have this question: what is your opinion about blockchain technology? Which technologies or domains will it do you see it disrupting in the future?
I mean, to be frank, as we speak, the technology is not proven or deployed at a scale. So, very, very early days. So, I think if you start a company in that segment today, I think you need to have a longer time horizon to sustain. Otherwise, if you expect that in 2 years you're going to achieve any significant progress, I'm not sure on that, because even your clients and your customers are not ready to infrastructure wise ready to adopt. So that's a challenge which remains. That being said, the technology has its own benefits, it has own merits. So it has future for sure. But I think I would say the Indian companies are not ready yet to adopt.
Makes sense. Hey, Somu, yeah.
Actually, Sir told that while you're starting the startup company in Bangalore, we will looking for the talented fellows. Or there is a low. That means Sir told that there is a low cost living. When compared to Bangalore, Hyderabad is lower than the Bangalore, right? Why?
So you're right, but that being said, the availability of talent, the talent still has not moved to Hyderabad. So there's only one company, Microsoft, there, right? Effectively, where the talent is available. But in Bangalore, there are so many companies like Amazon, or you have Facebook, and you have Flipkarts, and you have Ola, and I mean, you look at the talent availability. So I think if you ask me, the Hyderabad is the next natural destination that's gonna happen. Uh, but at the same time, the leap of faith of companies starting in Hyderabad, it is still not there. So people want to choose the easier routes to hire, and the easier route to hire, you see, oh, Bangalore is much easy to hire as compared to Hyderabad.
Okay, sir.
Makes sense. Anyone else has any live question? Jitin, I think if you could talk a bit about, like, you have a slightly non-traditional background in the startup circles in India, right? So if you could talk, and majority of our students also, like, they don't come from a tier one college, right?
Yeah.
And in some cases have a diploma or do have not have had a chance to complete their graduation. So if you could talk a bit about your background in the struggles, or what worked, what did not work in that context, and then maybe I'm guessing some people would be able to benefit from that story or might have follow-up questions on specific parts of it.
Sure. So, my background is actually very, very unlike of what you see in any startup. So neither I come from a technology background, nor I come from. So I work with ICICI, which is a large bank. Worked there for 7 years, and today, any startup you talk to, they curse banks, and they sort of say, oh, bank guys are most lethargic and most non-innovative and all of that kind of stuff. But I think I had a gala time in bank. I worked in 3 or 4 departments, learned whatever I wanted to. So I worked in underwriting function. I worked in sales. I worked in investment banking. I worked in payment strategy. So I always had this, that I want to learn as much as possible. Doesn't matter at which level people take me in their team. And I think I made many compromises while switching the teams in terms of the level at which I joined. But but I think my thing was very simple. I want to learn. So after having worked there for 7 years, I think I was very sure from my early stage that I want to always start something. But this whole courage of starting up, you sort of develop cold feet whenever you intend to leave job and all of that. So one fine day, then I decided, I'm just leaving and then decide. So that's how it worked out. Otherwise, I don't think so. If I sort of I think personally, so I'm not advising the same approach to all of you, but the personally, I'm the guy who was very comfortable working, and and I was like uh, the ideas used to keep coming, and but I never had the guts to leave. And then one day I just left, and then I'm like, and now I have no choice but to start. So I took that risky call. I was at home for 6 to 8 months before I started Citrus Pay, and I think because frankly the 6 to 8 months were very tough, uh, and I was just thinking what next, and all. And then what I realized is what I know the best is payments, and this is where I started the payments company. I think the non-tech background always created issues for me in terms of the initial hires and all of that. But I still don't know how to interview a tech guy. So that is the key. That being said, I think the tech guys I hired over my course, I made very few mistakes. So I think that worked well for me because, as I said, I have this, and I'm unexplained, unique way of evaluating people. So in terms of just looking at what are they driven with, what is the thing, ambition in their life, and all of that. I don't think so. I can sort of document it what exactly I judge. Uh, I mean, I would say this is very. I've got maybe this unique thing, and like my first 15 people of Citrus, all of them have now started their own companies, doing extremely well. So I think I was able to sort of hire people because of this unique ability to evaluate people who were entrepreneurial in nature, who were sort of ready to go to any extent to deliver. So and when you have such kind of people around you, you anyway have a high chances of success. So I think that worked really well for us. And I think after that, I mean, the other thing which is very important is that how do you give space to people to operate. So uh, so I was always like if somebody else, if I've hired someone, I'm gonna trust that guy because he's smarter than me. I mean, this is his area of expertise, rather than saying or intervening what is that he or she should do and how they should do and all. So I never gave solutions to the team. I always asked questions and put the problem statement and let them come out with solutions for that matter. Uh, that being said, I always knew that business problem, how to address that business problem or what business problem has to be addressed. So, so I think this whole delegating the whole responsibility and authority really worked well, and that you can delegate only if you do constantly see whether people are delivering, uh, and, uh, and that worked well. So I think these are the reasons for what worked at Citrus.
Awesome, thanks, Jitin. So, Jitin, many people also have this question around at the time of hiring, focus on technical knowledge versus communication rounds, right? Specifically, like I think the context is that some companies have this. Many companies have this HR round separately. So people are like, what if I clear all the technical rounds, but let's say my English communication is not the best in the world, right? So then, how do you, when setting up a company, look at these things: technical knowledge versus efficient communication?
So I don't think we pay too much attention to the communication skill. Yes, sometimes it is like good to have, but not like a must have to hire. Of course, it has a positive impact. If you ask me, it has a positive impact when you move up the curve, uh, because if you have to promote someone and become a team lead, and the team lead is not able to communicate well with the teams and to the product guys and all of that, it becomes very challenging. uh, but that being said, at the time of hiring, if you're hiring at the junior level, it doesn't matter much. But I have invariably seen that people sort of grasp that very quickly when they work in companies. So I think we have seen that people evolving in first 1 year like anything. So I think it's up to the person, right? If he realizes that this is his shortcoming, I mean, if he starts working on that, it always helps.
Makes sense. Uh, yeah. So, anyone has any live question?
Yeah, myself Mrinal here. I have a question. See, Jitin, I have seen a trend that in the initial days for any startup, whether you are a bootstrapped one and then they go for funding and then a good amount of scaling and then growth, and then we see that founders, step aside. So like get away from, as a satellite at the rocket, and then they get even in the case of Apple also, you see Steve Jobs getting separated in the company for some other reason, maybe in the case of Flipkart or so. So when I see your journey also in PayU and Citrus, I also see that you getting stepped away from the company which you scaled up. So I just want to ask, like, is it because the founders and the entrepreneurs mindset that they want to work in a new growth environment rather than an established process and business oriented environment? It's difficult to work in that way, or what is your take on the different trends what we see actually?
So I'll just correct you that so I did not step aside at any point of time in Citrus. Yes, we added the new people at a similar level because we felt the need of bringing or expanding the bandwidth. So, but I don't think so. Founders have that mindset that they want to step aside when the company has scaled. I mean, this is a very wrong notion. It's just that some founders are not able to mature to operate at a scale, uh, and they still the in terms of when a company scales, you need to put structures, you need to put process, you need to put systems, and some founders are still operating at the same level when they start the company, and so they're not able to mature themselves. So I think this is where the whole need of stepping aside comes in. But if the founders are mature enough to understand that they have not seen scale and they need help from people who have seen scale, so I think if you're able to do that and bring the relevant people in your company, there's no need of stepping aside.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jitin. So we haven't touched on this particular piece a bit. What is your general and what is your unbiased opinion like from or advice to people, students going through AttainU or let's say other similar programs in terms of preparing themselves for a career in the tech industry?
No, so what kind of advice you're asking?
Like generally, these AttainU or other such similar programs are meant to provide chance opportunity for deserving and got left behind, right? So, what is your suggestion for our students?
So, as I said earlier also, so if you become a job ready from day one or a month one, I think there's a greater likelihood of you getting selected. But if you're not job ready and you're just out of the college and you find it difficult anyway to prove what you know and what you can deliver and all. As I said, the larger companies still will absorb you because of your credentials and you have a CGPA and all of that. But the mid-size and a small companies won't absorb you because nobody wants to invest time with you for 6 months or a year to sort of teach you. And nowadays the tech guys anyway, they keep switching jobs and all. So I think there is this fear among the founders saying that this guy is coming, he will learn, and then he will leave after a year. So effectively, the productivity for me was zero. So I think that's why I know this is an unsaid rule. So nobody says it, but the unsaid rule is any mid-size or a smaller startup doesn't hire freshers. So if you, because they know that you're not job ready. So but I'm just saying it here. So I think that's the challenge. So programs like AttainU, I'm assuming directed towards skilling or upskilling to the real life problems or the real life technology solutions and all. I think you got a better chances of hiring and be more confident when you have technical rounds and all.
I have a question. So I'm curious about the 7 years in ICICI. And you said you have learned a lot in different things. So how did that happen? How did you know that I have to learn this? How did curiosity took you all throughout the different things?
I was always very hungry for learning, I would say, and I'm still, by the way. So I still try to upgrade myself whenever I can. So like I still travel a lot to learn what's happening in US in fintech, and what are the different models people are doing, how are they doing it differently, how are they becoming successful. So I go meet the companies, try to real time feedback of consumers. Because I think in India I am still finding it my learning difficult in terms of what's new happening. I think in India the learning curve from the newest trend in fintech, it is still very low. So that's why I travel a lot to Europe and US to learn. That being said, I think coming back to the ICSA days, as I said, I was always very inquisitive guy for learning. So after doing 15 months of underwriting function, I realized that I don't want to do a desk job. I want to do sales, because the person who controls the business has a better chances of success. That was my belief back then. So I sort of went into sales for 2 years. That happened, and then I was like, so I'm a CA, right? So I have a finance degree effectively. So I'm like, boss, I need to learn this whole investment banking thing, because, and that the reason was they were paid higher. So I was like, one, I'll get paid higher, and second, this is a new, most uh, recent thing. So let me just learn this. So 2 years I did that, but I realized that this is all fluffy. So then I was like, I need to get into the business, core business, and this is where I got on the payment side. And I must say that there was no inherent need or push from anyone else. I think it was more sort of driven by me itself.
Awesome.
So, like I work at right now. So I'm so it's not like I do have access to Europe or other sources. So how do you hello? How do you suggest? Like, do you have any suggestions for me? Like, how can I know how Swiggy works?
Sorry, I actually missed. Divyam, can you state the question for me?
Yeah, Anvesh, your voice was breaking a bit. Even I couldn't get the question. If you want, you can type it out and we can look it up there, or if you want, you can repeat it. But there's a lot of background disturbance from your
Okay,
side.
I'll type it out. Give me a moment.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess it's almost 3:40, so we can take this as the last question. Or yeah. In the meantime, if anyone, we can take one more question till the time Anvesh is typing it out. If anyone has any live question, but we'll almost end soon.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sriru.
Yeah, hi, Seju.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question regarding that startup thing. That will a startup company hire a fresher as a developer?
Yeah, I think I addressed this. So I would say that yes, provided how ready you are for the job.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, can you give us a single piece of advice like on securing the interviews? So like I've seen my seniors, like they know people, like they can get interviews very easily. But for freshers, like there are like, HR bots are there, they filter out the like not so ideal conditions for them. So like can you give some sort of unorthodox advice to securing interviews?
I think initially you need to be hustler, yeah. So hustler in the sense, reach people out on LinkedIn, reach people out through various blogs, uh, reach people out in events. I mean, because I think I understand what you're saying. Initially is the most tough to get or land you in a right job, because as I said, there are so many freshers looking out for jobs, and it's very difficult to filter out, because anyway there is a adverse biasness. So uh, so I think if you sort of reach out to, like I have seen, like my most of the hiring happened from LinkedIn. So where people reached out to me, and of course I met and I filtered out. So I'm not saying we hired everyone, but at least the hire rate from LinkedIn was way higher. And then you sort of need to have this, uh, like, if you can uh, write some blogs or comments and all of those kind of stuff, which creates your visibility on particular topic, because that sort of shows your thought leadership, that shows that you have your independent view on things, and which always helps. I mean, you need to see you are one out of many or you are one out of few. I mean, that's the positioning you need to do for yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Jiten. So we'll take this as the last question. Anvesh has posted his question. The question being, it's a follow-up to what you were saying in terms of learning. He's saying that being from a tier 3 college and no access to travel, how can I learn the strategy part? I work at Swiggy. How can I learn most out of it from the company?
I mean, yes, I understand. If you are in not in the main city, of course, you will always have this challenge in terms of your. I mean, because your learning is also dependent on what kind of company you're working on. So I think is the effort you need to make, that where is your maximum learning, and can you sort of reach out to that company or that group of people, uh, and as I said, you create visibility for yourself either through your blogs or thought leadership on any particular topic, or uh, basically give your views on particular technology. I think if you are able to do that, your visibility gets created over time. It is not an overnight exercise. It is sort of, it takes at least 6 to 12 months. But I think my only advice would be is that I mean, try to get into company, which is a company and a company of people who you can sort of learn more from. They're more connected, and for that you need to make a very, very conscious effort.
Awesome. Thanks, Jitin. I think we'll close the session for the day at that. And hopefully this was beneficial for everyone. And thanks again for taking out time in spite of being sick. And yeah, thank you for joining us.